Hey everybody, welcome to Community Christian Church. My name is Charlie Hines and I'm standing on my front porch and I wanted to welcome you from wherever you are, from wherever you're watching. Grab your hot chocolate, grab your coffee, your iced tea, whatever you need to get ready for church in the morning. We're about to do worship. And I'm the worship pastor here at Community Christian Church, and last week we had a great service. It was Mother's Day and Shelly did a fantastic job. So this week I wanted to dial it up and do something special for you too. So I donned the fedora, the jacket, I'm working the tie, and I'm working it. I'm doing my best here. But I just wanted to say welcome. We're about to jump into worship. We're going to start off with a full band worship experience that we shared with you at Easter, and then we're going to close the service with a special version of a fantastic song from my friend Clarence Church, one of my best friends, went to high school with, and my other friend Taylor Mesplay, who's a brilliant pianist who played on a lot of my records. And they're going to close the service with us. But right now, I want to invite you in and welcome you into my house. And let's get started for worship. Come on in.
He is risen, He's alive. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 Who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. Oh, yeah. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. Oh. I saw my ashes. You saw your dream. I saw an orphan. You were my family. I saw my frailty, but you saw my might. I saw my blindness, but you were the light. You give me garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. Garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. And I saw the water, but you saw the wine. And I saw dead branches, but you were the vine. And I saw my weakness, but you saw your blood. And I saw my failure, but you were enough. You give me garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. Garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. 'Cause I was lost, you called me out by name. And I was down, pick me up again. And I was wrong, till your love made me right. And I was dead, till you sang me back to life. And I was lost, till you called me out by name. And I was down, till you picked me up again. And I was wrong, till your love made me right. And I was dead, till you sang me back to life. As I was lost, and you called me out by name. And I was down, till you picked me up again. And I was wrong, till your love made me right. Was dead, till you sang me back to life. Oh, garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. Garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. Garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. Give me garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. 'Cause I was lost, till you called me out by name. And I was down, till love made me right. And I was wrong, till you picked me up again. And I was dead, till you sang me back to life. I was lost till you called me out by name. And I was down till you picked me up again. And I was wrong till your love made me right. And I was dead till you sang me back to life and gave me garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning. You give me garments of praise, fullness of joy, unending mercy, new every morning.
I love that song. Isn't that an amazing image that it just puts in your mind? Garments of praise, fullness of joy. You guys, I am so glad that you're worshiping with us today. Welcome to Community Christian Church Online. I'm Shelley Mosteller, the Creative Arts Pastor.
And I'm Randy Mosteller, the Executive Pastor.
And we're really glad you're here. If you can, if you get a chance, go to communitychristianchurch.com, click that Church Online button, go to the bottom of the page, there's a big digital connect card. We would love to know that you're here with us today. So fill that out, let us know how you're doing. We know things are starting to opening back up slowly and everything, but things are still a little weird, so we would love to check on you and know what's going on with you.
There's a thing on there also called the online program. It's just like when you were at church where you'd get handed a program as you're walking in the door. We've developed that there as well so that you can get up to date on what's going on, what's the key things we're looking at, and the things that you need to know. So to click on that and see if there's something in there that can help you out as well. And don't forget about the online giving. Keep doing that. It's real easy to do, whether it's a text gift, an online gift, mail it in, whatever. Keep doing that because that's a real show of faith.
And you guys are doing a great job with that. I just want to say, I'm really proud of community right now. We're just all coming together, and that is fantastic. Oh, and don't forget, if you haven't adopted a grad yet, Noah is doing the Adopt a Grad program where you can adopt one of the classmates of 2020, and it's not just for right now,
Ongoing.
Yeah, it's ongoing. So next year as they go out into the workforce, military, college, wherever they're going to go, their next step, you will follow along with them and keep showing that support. So I know that they still have grads that haven't been adopted. So if you could email Noah at communitychristianchurch.com and he will get you all set up. So I think that's it. You guys just go on that Church Online page. Everything is there. The kids program, the student programs, the adult small groups. There's one this afternoon and then another one on Tuesday nights. My group's meeting on Wednesdays, and it's just like one of those lifelines that we really hang on to. So keep doing that. Keep meeting together. It's an important thing to do. And right now, grab your Bibles, get comfy on your couch, and let's get ready for Joel to take us back into our series, Finding Hope in a Messed Up World.
Hey church, happy Sunday morning to you. I am Joel, I'm the Connect Pastor here, and I'm happy to be with you today. I certainly miss some things about our new normal, like I miss going to restaurants, I miss going to stores and not being anxious, and I certainly miss being here in this location with you all on Sunday morning. Like I miss the handshakes and the highs and the hugs. So I thought, hey, if we're going to be doing the teaching, might as well do it from a place that we all remember and hopefully miss like I do. So here we are. We're in the book of Revelation. It's John's vision from God. And I just want to start off by reminding us that this is a book that has a lot of confusing numbers and images. And while it is useful for encouragement and warnings for believers today, it was written in a specific time to a specific audience. And forgetting that, not reading the book through that lens would be a lot like if we were reading the diary of Anne Frank and we didn't know that World War II happened. Like, this is important stuff. It's important to know where it's coming from. And what's unique about the book of Revelation is that a lot of people think the Revelation is all about predicting the end times, when it is every bit as much about telling people what God has done in the past to give them hope and confidence here in the present. So this was especially true to John's original audience of downtrodden Christians. I mean, these people were the religious minority of their day. They were suffering. They were sometimes wrongfully imprisoned and innocently executed. And you just got to remember that John's purpose for writing this was not so that people could come back thousands of years later and deduce some secret code like Nicolas Cage in National Treasure, but instead he's trying to tell these Christians and you and I today that hardships are coming. That just because you don't see Jesus winning any battles or securing your job or making your future any better, he has already come and won the day. And you can take confidence that there's a final triumph coming, that you will spend eternity with him. And the most important thing is that we hold on to our faith, that we hang tight, we don't fold in, we don't give up, and we don't lose hope. And so that's where we are here today in the meaty section of the center of Revelation. It's a message about hope, but not in the most obvious way. It's kind of a backwards, roundabout hope. So you'll have to pay attention, because sometimes winning looks like losing. Have you seen the movie Cool Runnings? I mean, if you were alive in the 90s, you saw it, right? Because it's a classic John Candy, great cast, great story about the first Jamaican bobsled team to try and do well in the Winter Olympics. And it's kind of like that. They were thought of as a joke. John Candy played a coach who was a burnout, washout, and was an outcast. And it wasn't until they put together a couple of good runs that people started to think, man, these guys might actually be for real. And they had a shot at a medal until the final turn of their final run, and they crashed. And you just think, well, their hopes for a medal, their dreams of winning, their respectability, it's all lost. But you and I know that's not true. Turns out you don't have to win a medal. You don't have to win the Olympics to become famous or respected. They had learned to make a team. They had learned to trust each other. They had brought their coach back from the brink of insanity. Plus, they realized then that the crash was not the end. And it's kind of like the same message that John's getting across to the Christians, and that is that just because things look bad around you doesn't mean that God's not still in control. It doesn't mean that things are actually going to be the end for you. And so Scott closed the last teaching on Revelation about looking at this scroll, and it's in Revelation chapter 5. If you want to turn there, find where your family Bible is, pull out your YouVersion app. We're in Revelation chapter 5, John sees a vision of this scroll, and he wants to open it because there's 7 wax seals on the scroll, kind of like if you were receiving a letter from Victorian England, and if you happen upon a box in the woods, you would be curious what's in it, maybe scared. But if that box had 7 locks on it, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I am super curious what's going on here. And John weeps because no one can be found to open the scrolls. And so here, read with me. It's in Revelation 5, starting in verse 2. And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming a loud voice, "Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll?" But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scrolls and the 7 seals." So he hears that the Lion of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed and can open the seals. So that's wonderful, good news. But then he turns expecting to see some roaring, conquering lion. But what does he see instead? He sees a lamb. In fact, not even a well-groomed lamb or anything. This lamb looks like it had been slain. It's kind of probably pretty scary. And And so when he sees this lamb, but then all the elders and the other creatures and stuff like that are bowing down to it, it's kind of confusing. But those of you who know what we're talking about here, who is the Lion of Judah? Who is that lamb that was slain? They're the same person. I'll give you a second to give me your best Sunday school answer. Go ahead. Fill in the comments below. Who is the lamb? Who is the Lion of Judah? Go ahead. Put it down. No, I love it. Yeah, you're right. Here's what they sang, a new song to this slain lamb, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. You made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth." That's good news. But do you see what happened? John turns expecting to see a conquering hero, but instead he sees a slain lamb, a bloodied, meek-looking animal, and that is who has the authority to open the seals. Because sometimes winning looks like losing. And that's what tripped up so many of the Jewish leaders of Jesus' day. They were expecting a powerful conqueror king like David, and they instead got Jesus. Jesus didn't fit into their expectations. He couldn't even save himself from Roman execution. Never did they consider that maybe this was all part of God's plan. Because sometimes winning looks like losing. And what we'll see here in chapters 6 through 8 is that these seals are broken. There's a lot of destruction that comes from that. There's the fourth horseman of the apocalypse. And God's people are crying out. Their cries mimic the cries of God's people in Joel chapter 2 and Isaiah chapter 2. And they ask these probing questions like, how long is this going to last? Is there any hope? When is God going to step in? And that brings us to today, like literally and figuratively. It also brings us to the point of the letter, which is, again, hang on, don't lose faith. God's shown in the past that he's not out of control. He's not been dethroned. In fact, he's even predicted some of this future for us. And so he's not caught off guard. So you and I can stand firm in the face of these hardships and persecution. And so if you want a really good resource for understanding Revelation or getting a picture of this, or really any book of the Bible, there is a great group called the Bible Project. And you can search their YouTube videos for free. You can go to their website, thebibleproject.com, and just look at this image. This is what's happening in chapters 9 through 11. There's a lot in their writing here. But John sees more devastation in their future. So in chapters 9 through 11, there's some really interesting callbacks to the book of Exodus. You'll see here in that image that there's like poison water, there's demon locusts, there's darkness, there's blood flowing, some very clear comparisons here. And what was it that saved the Israelites from Egypt? Like, what was the final plague? It was the death of the firstborn sons. And what caused the Israelites to not have to deal with that plague? It was the blood of the slain lamb that they put over the doorpost that caused the death angel to pass over them. There's also some other interesting parallels with Egypt, because in the plagues of Egypt, the people and even Pharaoh was not convinced by all of this death and destruction. If you remember, Pharaoh's heart hardened and he chased back after the Israelites. That's why they had to flee across the dry Red Sea, right? So even all of this death and destruction, even seeing all of God's power, did not convince Pharaoh and the Egyptians not to mess with God, that God deserved their praise and the glory. And so the question becomes, what will? What will convince people of God's power? And that brings us back to Revelation, because in chapter 11, John tells the story about two witnesses. He describes these witnesses and their testimony, and it's pretty cool. They seem to have like superpowers, like they're able to call down plagues and cause droughts, which also are callbacks to things that prophets did in the Old Testament. Moses with the plagues and Elijah causing the drought, and all that stuff. But these prophets then, these witnesses in Revelation are able to do all these things, and a lot of people think that they represent the church. I think there's a lot of things to back that up. John describes them as lampstands, and Jesus describes his followers as light. And he says no one lights a lamp and puts it in a bowl, but instead he puts it on a stand that gives light to the whole house. So these witnesses have this great thing going on, but something bad happens. You want to pick up with me? Revelation chapter 11, starting in verse 7. It says, "Now they have finished their testimony. The beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the public square of the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom in Egypt, where also the Lord was crucified. For 3.5 days, some from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial." It's not good, is it? And John's first audience would understand that he was commiserating with them and their suffering, and also wanting to offer them hope. But where's the hope? Well, while you hold on to that question, let me tell you about this beast, because John is using language from another Old Testament prophet in Daniel. And I think Daniel's story is actually really applicable for this teaching in our time today. Because if you feel like you're out of your depth, like any of you were picked up out of your normal reality and dropped into an alternate reality, yeah, that's me too. There's been some significant times during this quarantine where I thought, is this real? Like, how is this happening? How is this real life? This is going to be talked about in history classes 1,000 years from now, and I am in the middle of it. And I just want to ask you, how are you doing? How are you doing mentally and emotionally? Because as someone who has struggled a bit during these times, let me just say, it's important to say what's wrong. It's important to let people know. It's important for you to know what you're thinking and feeling, and get some help. It may just be talking with family and friends. Best yet, it might be talking with a trained professional. And as a pastor, let me just remind you that our mental and spiritual, emotional and physical health, they're all tied together because God created us as individuals who have all of those aspects inside of us, and they need to be handled properly. So with that said, I cannot tell you where Daniel's mental state was, but I can confidently say that this young man was experiencing something every bit as disorienting and scary and upending as what you and I are in the middle of right now. Because he's this young teenager that we'll know thousands of years later as this amazing prophet. But when he was a young man, he was a promising young Israelite growing up in what seemed like a normal, everyday time. Remember, sometimes winning looks like losing. And then, one day, the bombs fell. The airborne troops dropped from the skies. The enemy tanks blitzkrieged into his hometown and his world. The one that he knew was over. He probably never imagined anything like this. He may have heard the elders of his village talking and saying that it would never happen and debating its possibility, but that didn't matter now, because soldiers were in his home, taking him prisoner, dragging him away from his family. And he was marching in the line of exiles to a destination he didn't know anything about. And he was one of the lucky ones to still be alive. Not only were they sad about their new captivity, but also they were mourning their friends and family who had not been so lucky. And it's because that he was so bright that he got an enviable position as a slave. He was part of the king's court. He was being groomed to be an advisor. God's favor was on this young man. All he had to do was play along, and he could have a nice, comfortable, albeit different existence from what he had planned. I mean, Daniel is dropped into the capital of Babylon, and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon are one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Daniel could have just made the best of the life that he had in front of him. Or even more likely, Daniel could have concluded that his God, the God of the Israelites, couldn't protect them from the gods of the Babylonians, and so therefore he was going to switch who he worshipped. But thankfully, Daniel isn't won over that easily. He may be wined and dined and given a new name and shown this beautiful capital, but he did not fear anything more than he feared his God. Not new diets, not enemy attacks, not even fires or wild beasts. Daniel was true to the God that he believed in. And so he didn't buy into their culture. He didn't accept them accepting him. He was still God's. And like his buddies, he was going to pay the price for that. All this is important because while Daniel's world was being turned upside down, you need to make note that he didn't fret. He didn't cave. He didn't capitulate, and he didn't assimilate. Are you hearing me, church? This is for us. And for it, he gets thrown into the lion's den. You can check this out in Daniel chapter 6. In short, God is granting Daniel favor, but that favor also wins Daniel the jealousy of other advisors. And so they hatch a plot to get Daniel thrown in the lion's den by convincing the king to make a rule that you can't pray to anybody but the king. Well, they know Daniel's not going to do that. Daniel gets caught. He gets thrown in the lion's den. But you might remember, that's not the end of the story, because sometimes winning looks like losing. And so I ask you, what's the outcome of Daniel's story? I'm not talking about him not getting eaten. Yeah, good, that was cool. That was a great miracle. But what was the outcome? What was the powerful story that God was working to completion through Daniel's life? Because it's the same that can be true of the witnesses in chapter 11 of Revelation. The same is true for you and I. Here is the outcome of Daniel's faith. You can see it in chapter 6 of Daniel, starting in verse 20. It says, Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God whom you serve so faithfully able to rescue you from the lions? And Daniel answered, long live the king. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so they wouldn't hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty. And then the King Darius sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God. He will endure forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed, and his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. Church, our suffering is a testimony to the nations. Us turning the other cheek is a true sign of our faith. And it is what God will use to change the nations. Just last week, I got to have 2 non-Christians on my streaming Bible in the year that I do. It's just trying to reach out in a different way to people who might not get an interaction with Christians or hear Jesus' story from a real person. And sure enough, I had 2 Christians on the stream. One of them was getting pretty combative because he did not think that faith in Jesus was something to be taken seriously. In fact, he called me a religious charlatan on the stream. He was getting, like I said, a little bit feisty. In fact, he said that my line of logic was why no one takes religious folk seriously and why they're laughed out of the discussion. And he also said that religious people tend to not prey on people's vulnerability. And I knew I couldn't really convince him, but I got to admit, my feelings weren't hurt that much. I wasn't suffering or anything like that. But I did keep my cool pretty much. And eventually this guy got bored and he got off. But like I said, there was another Christian on there watching all this happen. And he gets to watch all of this argument play out, and he stays on even after this guy left the stream. And he actually asks some probing questions. He says, I have issues with what God wants me to do. How would you know what God wants you to do? What do you hear from him then in your experience? And I got to tell this guy who claimed he didn't believe in Jesus my experience with Jesus and how I feel like he speaks to me. But I just got to think, man, what if I focused on being right? What if my aim during that was to win the argument with the other guy? Or what if I allowed my feelings to be hurt and just walked away? And what if showing someone that you care, even in the face of opposition, what if that's exactly what this other guy, Lander 03XD, what if that's what he needed to maybe open up his mind to Jesus and his followers? What if sometimes winning looks like losing? Nick Vujicic is a Christian author and speaker, and I don't think that anybody has ever affected a youth group from the stage like I've seen this guy. And in my youth group experience, we saw him at a week-long trip at the Alive Christian Music Festival, and the kids were still talking about this guy weeks after we had come home from the trip. And what's unique about him in his testimony is that he was born with no arms and no legs. And he talked about his reckoning with God and how he was angry and how ultimately God got through to him. And now, this incredible lifelong disability that Nick has is actually used to God's advantage. And he says he does not feel disabled. He does not feel like there's very many things he can't do. He's got a family. He's got a ministry. And like I said, people are won over because of his testimony of suffering and coming through. And this is all simply because this child of God chose to submit rather than to play the victim. I'm telling you, church, sometimes winning looks like you've lost. Just like it looked like the witnesses in chapter 11 of a Revelation had lost. Just like it looked like Daniel being thrown into a den full of hungry lions had lost. And so we're going to pick up in chapter 11 and verse 11. What happens after these witnesses that we read about just a couple of minutes ago? What happens when they have been dead for a couple of days and people are walking by, they're not even giving them a proper burial? It says, but after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered them, and they stood on their feet, and terror struck those who saw them. Then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, come up here, and they went up to heaven in a cloud while their enemies looked on. At that very hour, there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the survivors were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. That's it. I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but that's where the hope is, because God still moves. Even in the midst of tragedy, God is still doing his thing. And it's not a coincidence that in the middle of these difficulties, people's faith is changed. And lots of times, God is doing that through the hardships and the suffering of his people. So we don't have to look on it at these hard times as something that is an anomaly. Maybe this is actually all part of God's plan to help us be a witness to other people. Because sometimes winning looks like losing. So many verses from the New Testament come to mind. One is when Paul writes to the church in Philippi, if I live, it will be for Christ. And if I die, I will gain even more. And it reminds me too of Jesus' words. We'll let him close this out with this. He said to his disciples, if any of you wants to come and be my follower, you must give up your own way. Take up your cross and follow me. If you try and hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world, but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? For the Son of Man will come with his angels in the glory of the Father and will judge all people according to their deeds. God, we thank you just that we can have hope amidst hardship. God, we thank you that the difficulties in this life, that things being turned upside down, us not having it normal, that us losing loved ones, God, we thank you that that's not the end of it all. We thank you that you give us hope both now and for the future. God, I pray for this world. I pray that you would heal us, that you would heal the nations. But God, most of all, we pray as a church that you would use us to give you glory, to bring you glory. May our stories, may our testimonies, even may our sufferings bring you glory, God. And we give you the praise and the thanks for this time together this morning. It's in your Son's name. Amen. All right, have you got your communion ready? If not, go ahead and go grab some crackers, some grape juice, or some wine, or whatever. Let's sit together here and praise God through the song.
I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessing. Jesus, you don't owe me anything, but more than anything that you can do, I just want you. I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. Oh, I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessing. Oh. And Jesus, you don't owe me anything, but more than anything that you can do, I just want you. Oh, I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, and nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you, and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you, and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you. Oh, nothing else. Oh, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. Oh, I just want you. Yes. Oh, I just want you. Yes. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for a blessing. 'Cause Jesus, you don't owe me anything. But more than anything that you can do, I just want you.
Nothing else will do. I mean, when it all comes down to it, it's all about Jesus. So we're all thankful for Clarence and Taylor, Charlie's friends, to lead us in that moment of worship. And you guys just hold on to that. Go back, rewind it, sit in that moment again, and remember, no matter what we're going through today, He is right there with us. Nothing else will do but His presence.
We're just glad that you were here with us today, and we hope that you come next week and join us as we continue this series. Scott will be back to continue it with us. And if there's anything else that you need as we're getting through this, please contact us. Please let us know. We want to be part of what's going on as well. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.